Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of, well, no theme, actually, with some Radiohead. This track was originally requested for the self-referential week, which was about songs that referenced the fact that they were songs. This one is called Pop is Dead, and what grabbed me on this is it was described as a song that the band wishes everyone would collectively forget about. So naturally, my curiosity was piqued by that. Let's see what Radiohead did that they didn't want people to associate with them, because they've done some really out there stuff. I can't imagine that they would make anything unless it was just completely, totally palatable. Or if they did more stuff like Creep, I guess they would not be too happy with that. But there's just so little that I could think that they would do that they would be so unhappy with that they would just wipe it from the internet. And they did. I had to find this on some, well, actually, I didn't find it. The link was given to me, but it's on some random YouTube page, not affiliated with Radiohead at all. And the song is not found on any streaming services. So there's been an attempt to erase it from the internet. Let's dive into this and see what Radiohead was doing with Pop is Dead.
Oh no, Papa's dead, long live Pop. It died an ugly death by back catalog. And now you know, it gets you nowhere. And now you know you realize. Oh no, Papa's dead, it just gave up. We'll raise the dead, but they won't stand up. And radio is an outlaw. And now you know you're gonna die. This message for us. So what? Papa's dead.
What is the key that this is in?
So many facelifts, his face blew off. The emperor has no clothes on, and his skin is peeling off. Oh no, Papa's dead, long live Pop. One final line of coke to Jackie and Mo. Jackie and Mo. He left this message for
Well, that happens. Uh, sometimes I think, probably most of the time, I think people show up to this channel wanting an explanation. Why is a song good? What is it doing within music theory concepts that explains why it is so catchy, emotionally affecting, why it blows your socks off? There are occasions where I think songs are requested simply because I can't explain them. And I don't know, maybe the struggle of me trying to find purpose in that which I don't understand is entertaining in some ways. I wish I could explain this one. But I don't get it. I think the first thing that stands out to me is that it is pop rock through a distorted lens. When I think about the chorus, which I think is easily the least digestible part of this track, it's honestly not bad. Think about the guitar that shows up on the right. Da 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 da. That's super catchy. But the notes that I sung were in key with the rest of the track. Well, in key as much as I can sing. They also didn't have any dissonant clashing within themselves either. They were pretty consistent. The guitar that is played in the song is fighting not just itself, shifting keys seemingly in the middle of the run, but very much clashing and becoming incredibly frictional with the rest of the music. It is a guitar part that is trying its best to be noisy punk, to be confrontational and aggressive for no reason. Nothing else is really pairing well with that. As the song moves into the outro, we see more and more layers that push into this noisier, dissonant realm. But for the first two choruses, it's really only that guitar that's kind of being rambunctious. But the thing is that I could hum that part back. It is catchy. There is something incredibly catchy about that. When you pair it with the bass part, as simple as it is, the drum part, which has some cool little flourishes to it, even the vocal part. This is a pop song. It's twisted, it's distorted, it's altered and manipulated to be something that it's not. But at the end of the day, the heart of this track, the foundation, the core of it, is a catchy pop rock song. Maybe even pop punk at times, given some of its harmonic flourishes and melodic ideas. That to me is the strongest thing that I understand. My strongest point of understanding this track is that it's a twisted pop song. In another world and another writing style, this song would have been a radio hit. Incredibly memorable and one of those tunes that you either love or you hate that you hum it and that it gets stuck in your head from time to time. You hate that you even heard it once because it is so effective at being a pop song that as much as you dislike it, you still listen to it. In your head, at least. It just pops up every once in a while. But that's not what we got here. Here we played with noise, walls of sound, fuzzy production, and, as stated in the chorus, a ton of dissonance. But beyond that, what is this track doing? And maybe that's it, because now I'm seeing it is only 2 minutes in length, and maybe this is supposed to be a one-off. Hey, what if we made a catchy song, but really messed it up sonically and harmonically? Because when I listen to the bass part, when I listen to the drums, when I listen to the vocal melodies, it's Radiohead. It's a bit on the simpler side at times. Radiohead's not always a complex band compositionally, at least not in these ways. They tend to write more evocative harmonic concepts, but melodies are not always where I would expect complexity from them, nor drum parts, though they do have some interesting ones. There's nothing else for me to pull out from that area. Aside from the oddities we get in the chorus, it's just kind of a rock track here. We do have some really wild ups and downs. There's some sections where I don't even know if this is all part of the verse. Maybe it's like a pre-chorus or a fake out chorus. I'm not really sure. But we'll bring the energy way down. We'll have these higher pitched parts on the vocals, a little bit of falsetto thrown in there. And then we'll bring all the instruments back up and belt the vocals out again. It's very Radiohead in its high contrast and playfulness, but I don't see how that works within the themes of the track. And part of that is because I don't understand the themes, but the one theme I do get out of this, I don't know, the vision for what this song was supposed to be, I don't see how any of this really plays into that. It feels just like Radiohead made a pop song and then changed some notes to be distorted. And that's really all I get out of it. The outro, though, does veer really hard into noise. I had pointed out that one just this alarm. I think it's a guitar, but it's just two pitches back and forth, and it's just annoying to listen to. They picked the most obnoxious dyad and just bounced between them. And there's just layers and layers. There's so many things going on here. There's vocals, the drums are loud, the bass is loud. There's like two guitar parts. There's dissonance. There's consonants. It's a punky wall of sound here. It does build off of some of that destructive, or maybe more proper would be abrasive ideas that the chorus uh, dove into and played around with. But beyond that, it's just kind of a big finale, a big noisy finale. And I don't have a read on how any of this works together, aside, once again, for Pop Gone Wrong. Let me hit some lyrics and see if that grants any clarity on their intentions with this. Lyrically, this is a satirical take on the cycle of pop. The opening line is, "Oh no, pop is dead. Long live pop. It died an ugly death by back catalog. It just gave up. We raised the dead, but they won't stand up." So right here we have the idea that pop dies and is replaced by pop, which is kind of true, not even just within the realm of music that we tend to think of sonically to be pop music, but also the idea of popular music. Popular music in the mainstream is replaced by popular music, regardless of what genre that is. But it's also the fact that it never changes. This is something we're going to explore in verse 2, but I want to kind of set that seed here. We'll watch it grow in a little bit. It says it died by back catalog. Simply the idea of existing without being promoted. People don't go out searching for this, they get told to listen to it. It says we raise the dead, but they won't stand up. This actually works well with parts of verse 2, which says that Pop had so many facelifts that his face flew off. The idea that Pop is consistently rebranded and altered to be more appealing for a mass audience. You can see this in the ways that pop changes through the decades, but also how much is brought back. Disco had a bit of a revival in pop music in the 2010s. And that's just one way that we saw that the 90s pop sound is starting to seep its way back in alongside the return of 90s rock kind of coming back. Grunge is becoming popular again. And even within metal, we're starting to see some of those 2000s sounds like new metal having a slight bit of a resurgence. The music and art tends to work in cycles. So this idea of having facelifts, of raising the dead, trying to bring something back that was to make it current again and making it palatable for the new youth is a big part of all of this. So I find this to be kind of interesting from that perspective, simply saying that, hey, I see these cycles. But that's kind of all it says. It is satirical, but also sarcastic in an almost cynical way that I find a little disheartening. At one point, it says that pop is dead and it's no great loss. And I don't think that's true. Pop music being more commercial, having a lot of money behind it, big record labels wanting to get their money's worth out of an artist and their music, it certainly has room to be more vapid. But that doesn't mean that it is. Some great art has come out of incredibly popular bands and artists. I don't know. I think the twisting of pop rock in this track is supposed to be this, the idea of taking a style and perverting it. In their view, pop music is taking the purity of art and perverting it into business, into a product to be sold. And they're doing that as best they can, representing that through their music, taking the idea of pop rock and twisting it into something it's not. I don't think that this ultimately works. It comes off a bit teenager. It's a bit edgy. There's a line about I don't even know what it's about. Verse 2 embodies pop music as a person. As I read earlier, so many facelifts, his face flew off. It says his skin is peeling off, and then it says one final line of coke to jack him off. I don't even know. I really it feels like it's shock value for shock value's sake. I don't even know what it's trying to say, what it wants to mean. I mean, obviously, there's the wordplay here of a Jack and Coke, which is a mixed drink of Jack Daniels and Coca Cola. But beyond that, what does that mean? Is it about hedonism, bringing drugs and sexual conversation into this? But what does that have to do with pop music? Pop music has become more hedonistic, I would say, especially when you look at the way that primarily female bodies tend to be presented and portrayed within the pop music sphere. But I don't think that that's really what they're alluding to at all. I think it would need more nuance to really say that's the intended read of that. Plus, there is the use of him and he and his throughout this, giving a masculine view on what pop is. I'm really not sure what to read out of this line. And that's the last line of the track. I mean, there's the chorus that is just one line. He left this message for us. But what does that mean? He is pop music. So pop music told us that pop music is vapid. Is that what the core? I don't know, dude. I think I understand why Radiohead has tried to bury this track. It feels like a fun demo that maybe they should have kept to themselves. You don't have to release everything you make. And the Genius annotation on this mentions that it was the first non-album single that they created ever, and it was the only non-album single that they created up until 2009. This was released in 93. So they didn't make any non-album singles. And then after this one, they chose not to do another one for 16 years. It feels like something they created and said, oh, dude, this is hilarious. Let's put it out there into the public, even though we don't have an album to put it on. And then they regretted that. Hindsight is 2020, though, and maybe there is a more generous read on what this track is doing or saying than I have here. I've tried my best to be critical about it and find something of worth within it, and I'm really struggling. Other than the fact that it's kind of a fun song to listen to. It's got an energy to it. But from an artistic perspective, I find it kind of empty in the same way that it's describing pop music, which also may be the point of it too. Radiohead is very rarely, I would say, emotionally empty. Even if the lyrics aren't the strongest point, they are conveying an emotion that pairs back to the music. For the lyrics to be as simple and juvenile as they are, almost feels like an intentional decision by them. It just comes off as a bit pastiche, I would say, which is not what I go to Radiohead for. Not saying that they can't create something simple and dumb. I think even the best artists should be able to create something fun. But I just don't think that this was their strongest work, even within that realm of understanding possibly what their intentions might have been with it. These are just my thoughts, though. Pop is Dead by Radiohead. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, perspective, or opinion on this song? Let me know. I'm all ears. I would love to hear other people's perspective and what they took out of this song. You can drop all that in the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link for Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, with this week's album review. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.